Hi everybody, this is Courtney with Fiber Fox Studios and welcome to another Mosaic Monday. Today we are going to be working on this really pretty design right here. It's kind of a chevron-y type design and I really like it. I hope you guys do too. I do want to point out several things right here in the beginning of the video. For those of you who are new to the channel, please consider subscribing if you do like this type of content. I also want to bring up down in the description you will find project ideas and additional information that you may find very helpful. So please click down there in that description and take a look at all of that information. Also down in the description, you're going to find the row start times, which are really going to help those of you who are going to be doing this in larger projects. That way you'll know exactly where to rewind to and that sort of thing. I also want to point out that this project can be done in the round, or this design can be done in the round, which is what I have back here. And the sample that is in the round, I'm actually working on that with color changing yarn. So the yarn itself is doing all the work here. But for those of you who do want to do color change and you're going to be doing just regular solid yarns or yarns that you have on hand, not color changing, you're going to be able to swap out color A at row 9. If you want to have some color change going on, all you need to do is use the tutorial, and at row 9 you can do a color change. I won't be doing a color change in the tutorial because that does confuse people, but if you want to get a look like this where color A turns to another color as you're working on up, you will just need to do that at row 9. Now for the in the round, I do want to talk about this just real briefly. You can use the same tutorial to do your project in the round. If you are doing in the round, you'll just be carrying your yarn up. So you're going to follow only the multiple in the video. I do specify this as we start the tutorial. But for those of you who do not want to follow the tutorial and prefer the charts, you will find a link down in the description for the chart set, which does include in the round, and that link is to my Etsy store where I sell all the charts. So we're going to jump into this tutorial, so grab some supplies and let's get started. We're now going to begin working our project. So I'm going to be working a swatch with you guys. So I have chained in the multiple of 12 and then added 4 on the end. So I've done 2 multiples of 12 for 24 stitches, and then I've added 4 to the end. So I have a total of 28 chains right now. After I complete row 1, I'm going to have a total of 27 stitches because one of that plus 4 that we added to the end is going to be our turning chain. Now, if you're wanting to work this in the round, you are simply going to chain in the multiple of 12 and slip stitch to the first stitch or chain you made, and then you will begin working into that same exact first stitch on the multiple that I give in the video. So every row, I'm going to tell you the multiple, and that's what you will need to work to do this in the round. The rest of you who are doing a flat project, you are just going to chain in your multiple of 12 stitches over and over and then add 4 to the end. Now we're going to begin row 1, and for those of you who are familiar with mosaic crochet and the overlay technique, row 1 is going to be worked here in color A, and it's going to be back loop only single crochet all the way down the row. Then we're going to switch to color B, and we're also going to do the back loop only single crochet all the way down that row as well. So row 1 and 2 are just single crochets working in that back loop. So you can skip ahead and start your mosaic work on row 3 if you prefer. Otherwise, real briefly, I'm going to show you how to begin the project. You're going to skip the very first chain and work here into the second. And because we are doing flat, we're going to be doing a traditional single crochet. This is not part of your repeat here in the very first stitch. So the traditional single crochet goes under the V, and we finish out working that single crochet. Now from here, we're going to work our single crochets in the mosaic technique. So that means we're working the back loop all the way down the rest of the row. So you're just picking up back loop only. Hopefully my camera will cooperate and focus. And we complete back loop only single crochet. There we go. So now we're going to keep doing that all the way down. Last stitch in the row will be the traditional single crochet. I am assuming that everybody is really familiar with this technique that's watching this video. If you are not, please feel free to check out the beginner-friendly videos that I have here on the channel on the Mosaic Monday playlist. So you may pause here, finish working row 1 in color A, doing your single crochets all the way down, and we'll be back in just a moment to switch over to row number 2. We're now here at the end of row 1, and I'm just showing the row end, what I mean by you're going to work a traditional single crochet. So I have my back loop only single crochets all the way down the row, and now I have 1 stitch left, and in the last stitch of every single row, we are always going to go under the V and work a traditional single crochet. So I'm going under that V. Finish that out. Now you can chain up 2 and clip your yarn to bind off. Now switching it on to color B, so we're going to join that on, and we just add that onto our hook. I've gone into the very first stitch in the row, and we're just going to draw up that loop. And again, we're going to do our traditional single crochet here in the very first stitch. And then we begin the repeat for row number 2, which is the single crochet, working that in every single stitch all the way down the row. So we're going to begin that now as I finish up my first stitch. So again, just working into the back loop in every single stitch. So all throughout the tutorial, I'll be calling this a single crochet, and you're just going to work all your single crochets there in the back loop only. So you may pause here and meet back up with me when you're ready for row 3. That's where our mosaic work is finally going to begin. Row 3 begins now by joining on with color A this time, and we are going to begin the repeat for row number 3 immediately. Our repeat begins by doing 2 of our single crochets in the next 2 stitches. Pick up this very next stitch and complete our single crochet. There's 1, and here is number 2. Now we're going to complete 4 of our double crochets over the next 4 stitches. There's number 1. Number 2. Number 3. Oops. And number 4. Now we're going to do 1 single crochet right here into the very next stitch. Now we're going to complete 4 double crochets over the next 4 stitches. There's 1. Number 2. Number 3. And number 4. Oops. Now we're going to do 1 single crochet in the very next stitch to end our repeat. 1 single crochet. So let's recap that repeat. So row 3's repeat began over here when we did 2 single crochets. We then did 4 double crochets, 1 single crochet, 4 double crochets, 1 single crochet. So you're going to begin your repeat over starting with those 2 single crochets and continue working in the same manner on down the rest of your row. So a cheater way to look at this row would be, we're going to be separating these sets of double crochets with the single crochet in the center by 3 single crochets. So when we complete a set of 4 double crochets, 1 single crochet, 4 double crochets, we know we need to do 3 single crochets immediately after that and keep working on down the rest of our row. For you guys doing this in the round, you'll just follow that multiple that I gave of the 2 single crochets, 4 double crochets, 1 single crochet, 4 double crochets, 1 single crochet, all the way around. And then we'll be meeting back up for row number 4. So you may pause here and keep working on down the rest of your row, and we'll be back in just a moment. We're here at the end of row 3, and I'm going to show you your row end. I have just completed a repeat, and I now have 2 stitches left at the end of my row. And you're going to have the same exact thing on every single row. 2 stitches remain. So we restart our repeat for 1 stitch, and then we do our traditional single crochet in the last stitch of the row. So in this case, our repeat starts with the single crochet. So we're still working in that back loop. And then we do our traditional single crochet going under the V. So that'll be every single row. You'll restart the repeat for 1 stitch, and then you know your last stitch in the row has to be your traditional single crochet. So whatever row we're on, the repeat, whatever it starts with, that's how you're going to handle your row ends. So I won't be showing that every single row. And now we're going to clip our yarn and move on up for row number 4. Row 4 begins now by joining on with color B. This time we're going to begin our repeat for row 4 immediately. And that repeat begins by completing 2 double crochets over the next 2 stitches. So take a look at your work. We have these 2 stitches right here. We're going to do double crochet. There's 1. And now we're going to do our second double crochet. Now we're going to do a total of 9 single crochets over the next 9 stitches. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and last but not least, number 9. Now we're going to end the repeat for this row by doing 1 double crochet right here in the very next stitch. So that ends our repeat. So let's recap our repeat for row number 4. So our repeat began over here with 2 double crochets. We then did 9 single crochets, and our repeat ends with 1 double crochet. So you're just going to start your repeat back over, completing 2 double crochets, and then keep moving on down that same set of stitches until you meet the end of your row. Please keep in mind, we can actually do a cheater one on this one as well, because what we're doing essentially is we're working single crochets across the section where we created the 4 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 4 double crochet. And in between where we have that 3 stitches, that's where we're doing our double crochets for this row. So you're going to keep working on down the same way, and just know when you hit these sections where you have your 3 single crochets, that's where you're placing the double crochets. So this row will go by very, very quickly for you if you look at it that way. So we'll be back in just a moment for row number 5, and I will show row end over here in just a moment as well. We're here at the end of row 4, and as you can see, I've just completed my repeat. I have my 2 stitches left here at the end of the row, so I know I'm going to start my repeat over for 1 stitch. So in this case, that's a double crochet. And then in the very last stitch of the row, I do my traditional single crochet, going under that V. So now let's take a look. When we restart our repeat over for 1 stitch, what we end up doing is we even out the beginning and ends of our row by doing this. So my row began with the 2 double crochets, and because I end a repeat here and then I start the repeat over for 1 stitch, that means that this row end is going to match. That's the way this particular design and a lot of my designs are done, so that you're just starting your repeat over at the end of the row, and it ends up with a beginning and end of the row that matches. So that is probably every tutorial from pattern number 9 forward. Row 5 begins now by joining on with color A. So we begin row 5's repeat immediately, and that begins with 4 single crochets over the next 4 stitches. So we just simply take a look, identify our very next stitch, and begin working our single crochets. There's 1, here's 2, 3, and 4. Now we're going to do 5 double crochets over the next 5 stitches. Here's number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. Now we will end our repeat by doing a total of 3 single crochets over the next 3 stitches. So we're just going to identify that very next stitch. So there's 1, 2, and 3. So that ends our repeat. So let's recap that repeat. Our repeat began over here when we did 4 single crochets. We then did 5 double crochets, and we end our repeat with 3 single crochets. So you're going to keep working that same set of stitches, starting over with your 4 single crochets, and keep working on down the rest of your row. So essentially, in between the sets of 5 double crochets, you're going to be doing a total of 7 single crochets, if that helps you kind of zoom through row 5. So we'll be back in just a moment to work row number 6 in color B. For row 6, we've joined on now with color B, and our repeat for row 6 is going to begin immediately. This is what our work is looking like as we're moving along. So for row number 6, we're going to begin our repeat with 4 double crochets worked over these next 4 stitches. So we're just simply going to start our first one. So here is 1 double crochet. Here is 2 double crochets. number 3, and number 4. Now we're going to do a total of 5 single crochets over these next 5 stitches. Number 1, number 2, three, 4, and 5. Now we're going to end the repeat by doing a total of 3 double crochets over these next 3 stitches. Here's number 1, number 2, and number 3. That ends our repeat for row number 6. So let's recap that repeat. Our repeat began over here when we did a total of 4 double crochets. We then did 5 single crochets, and we end the repeat with 3 double crochets. So you're just simply going to start back over with the 4 double crochets and keep working the 4 double crochets, 5 single crochets, 3 double crochets on down your row. Or a cheater method for this row is we're essentially doing sets of 7 double crochets total in color B in between our sets of 5 double crochets. So if you take a look at your work, you're placing the double crochets in color B for this row in between the previous row's sets of double crochets. So you can work on down the rest of your row and zoom right on through it if you look at the row that way. So we'll be back in just a moment for row number 7. Row 7 begins now, and we begin by joining on with color A this time. And now we're going to begin our repeat for row 7 immediately, and that repeat begins by doing 6 single crochets over the next 6 stitches. So we're just going to identify our very next stitch. There's 1 single crochet, got to do a total of 6. Here's number 2, number 3, number 4, 5, and 6. Now we're going to do 1 double crochet right here in the very next stitch. Oops. Now we're going to end the repeat by doing a total of 5 single crochets over the next 5 stitches. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and number 5 ends the repeat for row number 7. So let's recap our repeat. Our repeat began over here when we did a total of 6 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 5 single crochets. So you're going to keep working that same exact set of stitches on down the rest of your row. And basically a cheater method for this row is you're placing a total of 11 single crochets across this section, and then your double crochet will fall in the center of the set of double crochets in the same color from the previous row. So you'll be working in that method all the way down, and then we'll meet back up for row number 8 in just a moment. Row 8 begins now. We've joined on with color B this time for row number 8. And our repeat for row 8 begins immediately by doing a total of 1 single crochet into the very next stitch, followed by 5 double crochets. So we're doing 1 single crochet. Now we're going to do 5 double crochets. So there's 1, number 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we will do 1 single crochet right here over the very next stitch. And we end the repeat by doing a total of 5 double crochets over the next 5 stitches. Oops, losing my loops today. Here's 1. 2. 3. 4. And 5. That ends the repeat for row number 8. So let's recap that repeat. Our repeat began over here when we did 1 single crochet, 5 double crochets, 1 single crochet, 5 double crochets. So you're just simply going to start back over with your repeat, doing your 1 single crochet, 5 double crochets, 1 single crochet, 5 double crochets. A cheater way to do this row is actually just to look at it as you're doing sets of 5 double crochets separated by 1 single crochet all the way down the row. So we will meet back up for row number 9 in just a moment. Row 9 begins now by joining on, this time with color A, and our repeat for row 9 is extremely easy. We're going to be doing 1 double crochet followed by 11 single crochets all the way down this row. So super easy repeat. We're going to do it now together. So row 9's repeat begins now by doing 1 double crochet here into the very next stitch. There's 1 double crochet. And now we're going to do a total of 11 single crochets over the next 11 stitches. Starting right here, very next stitch. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. That ends our repeat. So let's recap that repeat. Very easy. 1 double crochet, 11 single crochets. So we start over our repeat with 1 double crochet, and then we complete a total of 11 single crochets. So you guys can pause here. We'll meet back up when you're ready to move on to row number 10. And real quick, I'll show you a little cheater method. If you take a look at your work, you're just placing your double crochet right there in between on that triangle form. Basically, we've created a triangle right there. We're doing it in between those sets. So not every single one, because we're not going to place a double crochet right here. So you're not going to be connecting color A to a previous row's color A that has a double crochet on it. Hopefully that helps you. If you see a double crochet, don't put your double crochet there. If you see a single crochet, that's where you're placing the double crochet on this row. Might have made it more confusing. Hopefully not. Maybe some of you, your brains think like mine. So we'll be back for row 10. Regardless, if you do 1 double crochet, 11 single crochets all the way down your row, it will end up perfectly. Row 10 begins now by joining on with color B. This time we're going to begin our repeat for row 10 immediately. And that repeat begins with 3 single crochets worked over the next 3 stitches. So we're just going to identify that very next stitch and begin working our single crochets. So here's 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to do a total of 7 double crochets over the next 7 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now we're going to end our repeat by doing 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. So right here, very next stitch, 1 single crochet and 2. And that ends our repeat for row number 10. So let's recap that repeat. Our repeat began over here when we did a total of 3 single crochets. We then did 7 double crochets, and our repeat ends with 2 single crochets. So you're going to keep working that same set of stitches, starting right back over with your 3 single crochets, and keep working on down the rest of your row. Essentially, the cheater method for this row is you're doing 5 single crochets in between the sets of 7 double crochets. So you do 5 single crochets, 7 double crochets, all the way down the rest of your row. So we'll be meeting back up when you're ready to move on to row number 11. Row 11 begins now by joining on with color A this time, and we're going to begin the repeat for row 11 immediately, and that repeat begins by doing 3 double crochets over the next 3 stitches. Here's 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to do a total of 7 single crochets over these next 7 stitches. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and number 7. Now our repeat's going to end by doing a total of 2 double crochets over these next 2 stitches. Here's 1. And 2. And that ends our repeat for row number 11. So let's recap our repeat. Our repeat began over here when we did a total of 3 double crochets. We then did 7 single crochets, and we end the repeat with 2 double crochets. So you're just going to start your repeat back over with the 3 double crochets and keep working in that same exact manner on down the rest of your row. And a cheater method for this row, for row number 11, is we're essentially just doing 5 double crochets in that space that we created with the 5 single crochets, and then working straight across our double crochets from the previous row. So if you keep working in that same method, you will see really easy repeat to complete, and then we'll be back for row number 12 in just a moment. Row 12 begins now by joining on with color B this time, and we're going to begin the repeat for row 12 immediately by doing a total of 5 single crochets over the next 5 stitches. So we're just going to identify that next stitch and begin working our single crochets. Here's number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're now going to do a total of 3 double crochets, 3 double crochets over the next 3 stitches. Here's number 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to end the repeat by doing a total of 4 single crochets over the next 4 stitches. So here's number 1, number 2, 3, and 4. That ends our repeat. So we're going to recap our repeat for row 12. And it began over here when we did a total of 5 single crochets, 3 double crochets, and 4 single crochets to end the repeat. So if you take a look at what you're doing, you're finishing up, coming up here to the peak, and you're going to be doing a total of 9 single crochets in between those 3 double crochets. That's just like the cheater method for the row. So you'll work, and then we'll be meeting back up for row number 13. So we've got rows 13 and 14 left, and then we'll talk about how you keep moving up for additional repeats of this pattern. So we'll be back in just a moment for row 13. Row 13 begins now by joining on this time with color A, and we're going to begin the repeat for row 13 by completing a single crochet in the very next stitch. So we're just going to identify and work a single crochet. We're now going to do a total of 4 double crochets over these next 4 stitches. Very next stitch. So here's our first double crochet. So here is 1, number 2, three, and 4. We will now do a total of 3 single crochets over these next 3 stitches. Just 1, 2, and 3. And we will now do a total of 4 double crochets to end our repeat. Here's 1, 2, 3, and number 4 ends the repeat. So for row 13, we're going to recap this repeat. Pull that up. Our repeat began over here when we did 1 single crochet. We then did 4 double crochet, 3 single crochet, and we end with 4 double crochets. So you're just going to start your repeat back over doing the 1 single crochet and keep working that same set of stitches on down the rest of your row. And then we'll meet back up for our final row, which is row 14, in just a moment. Row 14 begins now by joining on this time with color B, and our repeat for row 14 will begin immediately by doing 1 double crochet into this very next stitch. So we're going to identify that next stitch and do our double crochet. We will now complete a total of 5 single crochets over these next 5 stitches. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We will now do 1 double crochet right here. As you can see, we're in the center. 1 double crochet, and then we will end the repeat by doing 5 single crochets over the next 5 stitches. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So let's recap that repeat. Our repeat began over here when we did 1 double crochet, 5 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 5 single crochets, ends the repeat. So you're going to keep working that same set of stitches on down the rest of your row. Cheater method for this row is you are doing a double crochet, 5 single crochets over and over all the way down the row, And then we will be able to complete row 14, and then we can rewind back in this video to row 3, and you can complete rows 3 through row 14 as many times as you want to complete a larger project. As always, I appreciate you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy this tutorial, please make sure that you are subscribed to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss any of the tutorials that I put out. And if you could give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it, I would really appreciate that as well. As always, feel free to leave me a comment down below. And until next time, bye for now.